Hello, this is Anna Laura Brown, host of the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast, where we talk about how to actually thrive and heal your autoimmune condition rather than just covering it up with pills and changing your diet and hoping you'll feel better one day. We feature solo episodes on helpful topics and interviews with guests who have actually walked in your shoes with autoimmune disorders and/or who have years of experience in helping people to thrive and not just survive with autoimmune challenges. I'm a health coach who started this podcast because I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2018 and wanted to inspire hope and transform health for people with autoimmune challenges. So keep listening and let's get you the help and hope you really need. This is the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast. And today I am happy to welcome Cris Toto to the podcast. And this is going to be a pretty interesting, different conversation that I think a lot of you will find helpful. Cris will introduce himself a little further, but his story is Hashimoto's as well. But in case you hadn't noticed, you'll probably figure it out with the voice and if you're watching the video version, that he's actually a man instead of a woman. And a lot of the other stories we've had have all been women because a lot of the Hashimoto's cases are women. But so I'm happy to have a man come on and talk about his experience with the thyroid issues. So Christopher, welcome to Autoimmune Rehab and tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Hi, Annalie. Thank you, Anna. Laura, sorry about that. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, I am one of the few men I know that have gotten Hashimoto's. I was struggling with my health for a while, 10 years. And then I didn't know what to do. I was losing my hair. I was struggling with my energy levels. I was putting weight on, all the classic symptoms that you hear everyone get. But no one, since I wasn't a woman, would want to check my thyroid levels out. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor, surgeon after surgeon, and they all wanted to give me a pill, a depressant, antidepressant, anti-anxiety pill, or they wanted to perform surgery for my chronic pain. But I turned all that around. I was diagnosed at 50 years old in 2022. And took me 6 months to get my hormone levels regulated. But I was still experiencing symptoms. And then I discovered Mark Sisson's book, The Primal Blueprint. I read Max Lugavere's book, The Genius Life, and just watched masterclass after masterclass, read 1,000 books, and finally figured out that my lifestyle got me into this mess, and changing my lifestyle could get me out. So I kind of went paleo. I stopped eating gluten, dairy, soy, all the toxins. The standard American diet I kind of completely eliminated, and within, I'd say 12, 16 weeks, I was completely symptom free. I dropped 40 pounds and felt like a human again. I felt like I was in the best shape of my life since high school. And that prompted me to change my life, change the trajectory of what I was doing in this world, and to become a coach and help other people who are suffering with autoimmune diseases, specifically Hashimoto's. And now I coach other people suffering through it. And from my experiences and what I've learned, I help them go through. It took me years and lots of money to get done in like 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a good testimonial right there to the power that diet has. And sometimes I think we just don't realize, how powerful changing the diet can be a big one. So you mentioned that part of the reason people wouldn't test your thyroid levels was because you were a man, or you are a man. And how did you finally get somebody to wake up and say, hey, listen to me, I need my thyroid levels tested?
It was actually my wife that suggested I go to see her endocrinologist because she had thyroid cancer due to 9/11. And she was working around the pile for 6 months. And then 20 years later, she developed thyroid cancer. And I just felt horrible. She was just noticing that I had no energy and all the other symptoms I mentioned. She said, why don't you just go see him? Let's get some blood tested and check it out. and he was one of the really few good doctors I've ever been around. Dr. Hugh Milken in New York City. He's retired now, but we found him from the Thyroid Mom podcast or blog, something like that. My wife found him through. But anyway, he finally did a full thyroid panel on me, tested my testosterone levels, all of that. And they were all, I had high TPO antibodies. I had low free T3, low T4. I had no testosterone. My testosterone levels were that of like a 90-year-old man. In men, they noticed kind of a correlation between low T and a larger incidence of Hashimoto's. They don't know which one causes which. They're still studying that, but I had both. So, hey, yay. So that's how I was lucky enough to get diagnosed finally. And that's how I got diagnosed, by going to my wife's doctor.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. You were finally able to get that diagnosis. So then you got that diagnosis, and did you have that immediate light bulb switch on that said, hey, I switched my diet first? Or what was the first thing you did after you got that? Probably breathe a big sigh of relief of, oh, whew, I finally know what's going on. Now what?
That happened 2 weeks or so later. First, I sat outside his office, and it was a gorgeous spring day in April. I remember the birds are tweeping, everyone's walking by, and I'm sobbing. I'm crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck did I do to myself? I'm 50 years old. Am I going to even make it to 60? So I had a big old pity party. I was crying. I was like whining. I was like moping. I had all the feels. And then after 2 weeks, and starting to get the medication right, he put me right on NDT, Armor Thyroid. So I started getting the T3 that I didn't have in my body. And then everything started spinning in the right direction after that. Then my mind started clearing and I started feeling good. And then I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to feel like a normal human being. What's the next steps here? And then through various, like, keep doing the constant blood work and checking levels, we raised my hormone levels after 6 months. So then is when I had the epiphany that medication is not going to take all my symptoms away, because my energy levels were good. All my blood work was reading normalized, but I was still having mood swings. I was still depressed. Still having vertigo. There were so many symptoms in so little time, I forgot them all. But I still couldn't take any weight off. And that was the big kind of aha moment. No matter what my blood work looked, I was still 40 pounds overweight. I was already had started testosterone replacement therapy, which in hindsight, I wish I waited on and changed my diet first.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But then I changed my diet by reading some books, by changing my lifestyle, eliminating gluten, soy, processed foods, pasta, which kind of hard being Italian. I mean, my moniker is the Primal Italian, and I stopped eating almost all the good Italian food. And then the hardest part was eliminating dairy. That was the one that took me the longest to stop. But once I stopped dairy, like everything, like it's just a cascade of everything happened. The weight just flew off. The muscle tone came back. I had energy for days. I started working out and building muscle. So it was a process of steps that I took because I didn't know any better. And it was kind of like, just let me throw this dart. Let me throw this dart, and let me throw this dart. And then some of them worked, some of them didn't. And that's how everything finally fell into place for me.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of us end up doing that. We just kind of, like you said, throw the darts and try to figure stuff out. And yeah, dairy is really, I mean, it's so highly inflammatory. It's like I tell people the joke is I love cheese, but it doesn't love me back. You know?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, and I think for some people, a lot of people don't realize is some people, I think even dairy can be worse than gluten sometimes.
Yeah, because they're
For
both
one person, but yeah.
exactly, and both of them are very similar to your thyroid molecules. They both have a similar shape, which I found that very interesting. Kind of like that's why a lot of people who have thyroid problems have gluten intolerances and dairy intolerances.
That, and then of course the other issue is the whole chemicals that are, in our food, especially here in the US. Like the gluten that's in Europe is not the gluten that's in the US because of the way it's processed and chemicalized. And I mean, you could go down a whole rabbit hole there, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We could spend a whole podcast just on that. Definitely.
Yeah. So after that, you got your weight off, you started feeling good, and then you decided that you wanted to help other people do it. So how did you transition over into that? What were you doing for a living?
Um,
Beginning?
I, before all the injuries that I had and this 8 major surgeries, I was a massage therapist and personal trainer for
Wow.
15 years. So I was always into the alternative health space. I worked in New York City in the Hamptons, then undiagnosed Hashimoto's, and I herniated a disc in my neck. That was a chronic condition for 10 years that forced me out of doing massage and personal training. So then I went and got my MBA. I studied to become a physical therapist for a little while. And then I went into real estate after I got my MBA. So I kept bouncing around. Then when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, it was kind of an epiphany, if you might want to say. I was like, I found my place in the world. I searched for 50 years and then I found it. And it was like a light bulb kind of going off. You need to help all these other people. Like you did the work yourself. You can help all these other people. And if you follow, like if you just do the searching in Facebook or on Reddit, or any like the social media platforms, or just even contacting all my friends. And there's so many people with thyroid, autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's. Like I heard story after story. Like my friend told me, I'm so glad you're a coach now. Like one of my friends committed suicide because they had Hashimoto's.
Whoa.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I say. I'm like, all right, I'm in it to win it. I got certified through Mark Sisson's Primal Health Coach Institute. And then I used all the training and the anatomy and the physiologies I had been studying for years to my benefit. I keep reading and I keep studying from people that know a little bit more than me. And I pass it down to my clients now. And I started in 2023.
Okay, awesome, cool. So you said you had like 8 surgeries. Were that related to like your neck injury and stuff or things like that? Or what did you go through on that?
3 were my right knee. I was stupid and played club football in college and blew out my ACL. And then that needed work. 2 of them were for my neck. 1 of them was for my shoulder, a triple hernia, deviated septum from getting punched in the face. And I can't even remember the others, but yeah, the shoulder and the knee were probably related to chronic arthritis due to Hashimoto's and just eating a poor diet. I think I
Yeah,
avoided those.
yeah, those can all be related too. And then of course a lot of people, experience the whole stress and trauma thing that can bring down your thyroid, stuff like that. So maybe having all those surgeries was, played a role in you getting the autoimmune and the thyroid issues too, to some degree.
Definitely could have been, yeah, especially the neck surgery, because that's kind of like, but I was going through, it was like when I look back at it, I was having thyroid symptoms and the chronic pain. So, and then like just also symptoms of low T. So it's kind of like a whole combination of just hitting me. And living in New York City, frankly, isn't the healthiest environment to live in. There's a lot of toxins. You're always walking around with car fumes going, or if you're on the subway, that doesn't smell too great either. You're eating a lot of restaurant food. You're in a cramped buildings. Even if we had very nice apartments, they're still no bigger than 1,100, 1,200 square feet. So there's not a lot of parkland and space besides Central Park to be in nature. So there's a whole combination of stuff that led me to where I was.
For sure, absolutely. Just so did you end up moving at all, or are you still like in the New York City area too?
We moved to New Jersey before I was diagnosed. Before my wife was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, we finally got sick of paying the rent. They raised our rent from $4,500 to $6,000 in our apartment. Yeah, and my wife did the figuring out. She's a financial analyst on Wall Street, and we had paid $1 million in rent. So we're like, oh, we're going to go buy a house in Jersey. And yeah,
that's nice. So you're probably in an area now where you have a lot more outdoor space. You're able to go get grounded, benefit from the nature. And
exactly. We have a garden. We have a gorgeous house with views to die for. We have now 3 dogs. We had 1. I hike with them daily. So I'm out in nature all the time. It's a much more zen kind of living.
Yeah, and that definitely helps your healing as well too. So tell us a little bit about how does somebody get in contact with you if they want to reach out and learn more about you and how they can work with you.
The best place is to reach me on Instagram at the primal.italian. That's my main social media presence. Also, I have a website, theprimalitalian.com, where they can go and check out what I offer. They can listen to my story. They can get my free guide there as well, or they could book a call and we could talk about how they might be helped by my Primal Path and my Hashimoto Solution coaching program. And then I guess in the show notes, we'll put a link to
links to that, to Instagram and your website and anything else.
And I have a free masterclass that I'll put a link to there, where they can go and figure out how they can kind of help their own Hashimoto's and figure out. It gives a step-by-step kind of guide to start them on their healing journey.
Awesome. Cool. So if you could go back in time to, let's say, maybe 2018, 2019, a few years before you got your diagnosis, and tell yourself something that you wish you'd known then that you know now, what would you tell yourself?
2 things. Take agency of your own health. Don't give your health to the doctors of the medical community, and study health and your own health. And then 2 is eat better food. Stop eating the standard American diet. Eat more plants and meat. Eat less processed foods. Don't eat processed foods. How about that? Start there. Don't eat sugar. Drink less. Drink better water. Listen to people who are smarter than you. Read, study. Those are the basic things I would tell myself.
Awesome. That's good. That's great. That's great advice. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Christopher, for coming on the podcast. Like I said, we'll include everyone's links so people can connect with you. They can learn more about you. They can do a call if they feel like that's something that they want to learn more from you. And everybody else, thanks for listening to this episode of Autoimmune Rehab. If you found it helpful, free to please rate us, give us a review, and share it with anybody else you know that could benefit, especially if you have any men in your life that you feel like might have thyroid Hashimoto's issues. Let them listen to another man, because sometimes, you know, you can listen to all the women in the world, but, you know, sometimes actually hearing from a man who's been there might actually help them actually get a diagnosis and get some help. So
exactly. Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to your audience.
Yep, absolutely.